I told myself it wasn't cheating if I didn't mean it, if I felt empty when it happened, if it filled a silence I never asked for. He was kind. He listened. He looked at me like I still existed. So when it finally happened, when I crossed the line, I convinced myself I could live with it because my husband didn't know, except he did. He knew everything, and he let me walk into the fire just to see if I'd ever come back. I never thought I'd be the kind of woman who cheats, not even emotionally, especially not emotionally. That felt worse in some ways, dirtier, less excusable. With physical betrayal, there's always the excuse of impulse, of one bad night. But when your mind drifts, when your heart chooses someone else's name in the silence, that kind of cheating has no exit wound. It just keeps bleeding. Jake, my husband, is a good man. Solid, grounded, decent. The kind of man who changes the oil on schedule, who always brings a jacket for me just in case, who signs birthday cards for my family and never forgets the dog needs meds. We met at 27, married by 30, bought a house by 31. No kids. We tried, and then we stopped trying. Some losses feel heavier than they should. That one hollowed us out more than either of us admitted. He never raised his voice, never slammed a door, never walked out mid argument. But somewhere along the way, he stopped looking at me. Not in the lustful way, or even the affectionate way, just in the noticing way. I could be crying in bed, quietly, staring at the ceiling, and he'd come in, kiss me on the head, and ask what we should do for dinner. It wasn't cruel, just absent. It was a Tuesday when I met Lucas. I was at a conference for marketing directors. Jake had reminded me that morning to pack snacks because those hotels overcharge for trail mix. I remember I rolled my eyes and smiled. Classic Jake. Always the planner. Lucas was the keynote speaker. Not flashy, not young, but he spoke like a man who'd lived several lives and wasn't pretending to have all the answers. He was lean, silver at the temples, voice like an old vinyl record. During the breakout session, I asked a question about consumer fatigue. He answered, then asked me a question back, not just to be polite, to engage. He held my gaze like it was something worth holding. Later, during the mixer, he found me, asked if I always asked such smart questions. I laughed, said only when I cared. He said, "What do you care about?" And I froze. Not because I didn't have an answer, but because no one had asked me that in years. I don't know when it stopped being emotional and started becoming transactional, but I remember the first time I noticed the shift. We were in his office again. Afterward, he handed me a plane ticket. A business trip, he called it. All expenses paid. A weekend in Chicago. Just me and him. He'd already arranged with my husband's supervisor to give him a bonus so he could take time off too. He didn't even ask me if I wanted to go. He just assumed. And I went. I tried to tell myself I still had control, that I could end it if I wanted to. But the truth was, I didn't know how. Every time I tried to pull away, something happened. My husband's car got repaired through a company discount. We got invited to a corporate dinner where my boss praised my husband publicly, said he was one of the most loyal men he'd ever met. Every move felt like a reminder that this wasn't just about me anymore. And the guilt, God, the guilt, it came in waves. Not from the sex, not even from the lies, but from the silence, from the way my husband looked at me like I was the best thing that ever happened to him, from the way he'd text me in the afternoon to say he missed me while I was in another man's hotel room replying, "I miss you too." He trusted me so completely, and that trust became unbearable. I stopped sleeping properly, woke up with my heart pounding, checked my phone obsessively, terrified he'd found out, terrified he hadn't. I started snapping at him for little things, just to create distance, just so I could breathe. but he never snapped back. Instead, he became sweeter. Thought I was stressed from work, started doing more around the house. He'd leave little notes on the fridge. Dinner's on me tonight, beautiful. You're amazing. Don't forget that. Every kind word was a knife. And the boss, he just kept pushing. There were moments I hated him. The way he acted like this was normal, like he was doing me a favor, like my silence was permission. But there were other moments, and this is the part I hate the most, where I didn't hate it, where I felt chosen, desired, seen in a way I hadn't felt in years. That duality tore me apart. One afternoon, we were alone in the conference room. Everyone else had gone home. He kissed me, and I kissed him back. But for the first time, I started crying. Not loud, not dramatic, just silent tears sliding down my cheeks as he touched me. And when he noticed, he stopped, stepped back, asked me if I was okay. I lied, said it was hormones, said I was fine. He said, "You're not fine, but you will be." And then he kissed my forehead like we were something tender, like he was doing this for me. That night, I sat in the shower until the water ran cold. My husband knocked on the door and asked if I wanted tea. I said no. I couldn't even look him in the eyes. I told myself I'd end it, that I had to, that it wasn't fair anymore. But I didn't, because the next day, my husband came home smiling. A new bonus, new praise, new promises of a raise, all from the boss. And I felt like I was drowning in a deal I never fully agreed to. A month later, everything changed. We were at a corporate retreat. The boss brought his assistant, a woman I barely knew. Young, smart, pretty. He introduced her like nothing was unusual, but something about the way he looked at her, it was the same look he used to give me. And I knew, just like that, I was no longer the only one. That night, I couldn't sleep. I walked outside to the terrace and found him there, drink in hand. He smiled like he'd been expecting me. I asked him, "Is it over?" And he said, "It was never supposed to be forever." That should have been a relief, but it wasn't. Because the next day, everything went on like normal. He was cold, professional. And my husband, he got promoted. A big leap, full benefits, a salary bump. Everyone congratulated him. Everyone except me. I couldn't speak. I couldn't fake the smile anymore. Later that night, my husband and I went to dinner to celebrate. He held my hand across the table and said, "I've been meaning to ask. You've seemed off lately. Is everything okay?" I nodded, said I was just tired. But the way he looked at me, I'll never forget it. It wasn't suspicion, it was sadness. Like he already knew, like he'd known for a while. I didn't ask, and he didn't tell me. We just finished dinner, like nothing had happened, but everything had. And I knew, deep down, this wasn't over. Because sometimes betrayal isn't a sharp cut, sometimes it's a slow bleed. Weeks passed. The affair ended in form, but not in memory. The boss stopped reaching out. I deleted every message, cleared every photo, changed the ringtone I used for him, like that could somehow wipe what happened. But it lived in the walls of our house, in the way I avoided mirrors, in the way my husband looked at me when he thought I wasn't looking. Something had shifted between us. Not spoken, but heavy. We still slept in the same bed, still made dinner together, still kissed goodbye before work. But it all felt like habit now. Movements memorized in a play we were no longer acting in, just reciting from muscle memory. I thought maybe this would fade, that we'd find our rhythm again, that if I just kept moving, the guilt would settle. And for a while, it almost did, until the night I found the envelope. It was tucked inside my sock drawer, not hidden well, just enough to feel intentional. There was no name on it, no note. Inside, photos, screenshots, transcripts, printouts of emails I'd long since forgotten I sent. Everything. Not explicit, but precise, dated, tracked, categorized. On the back of one page, in handwriting I recognized immediately, was a single sentence. I knew. I just waited. I couldn't breathe. I sat on the edge of the bed for 20 minutes, staring at nothing, the envelope still open in my lap. He'd known, not just suspected, not just feared, known, and let it happen. Why? I didn't ask him that night. I didn't even tell him I'd found it, but I started watching him differently. Every gesture, every silence. I thought about all the times I'd lied, all the times he'd smiled anyway, all the times he'd touched me gently while holding a truth I didn't know he had. He never brought it up, never once. Until one Saturday morning over coffee, he said, "You ever wonder why some people don't confront betrayal?" I froze. He didn't look up from his cup. I said nothing. He continued, "Sometimes it's not because they don't care. It's because they want the person they love to come back on their own." And then he looked at me. Long, quiet, measured. I opened my mouth, but nothing came out. He stood, placed his mug in the sink, walked into the living room, and I sat there, alone in the kitchen, with no defense. That afternoon, I packed a small bag, just clothes, a notebook, nothing final. I told him I needed space, time to think. He nodded. No surprise, no questions. And when I walked out, I knew something irreversible had happened. But the story didn't end there. A few weeks later, I called him, said I wanted to talk, really talk. He invited me over, same house, same couch, same smile. I told him everything, every detail he already knew. I didn't hold back. I cried through most of it. And when I finished, he sat there in silence, then said, "I didn't want revenge. I just wanted the truth to choose its own ending." I asked him what that meant. He said, "I trusted you with the freedom to destroy us, and you did." Then he stood and handed me an envelope. Inside, divorce papers, already signed on his side. No threats, no anger, just silence and choice. I didn't speak. I just left. And when I got home, I sat in the dark for hours, thinking about all the chances I had to stop, to turn back, to choose differently. He had given me room to fall, and I had mistaken that for a weakness. But really, it was strength. Cold, steady, unforgiving. Because sometimes the most brutal revenge isn't fire, it's the quiet,